might have noticed we tried out the Hydra mount back a few months ago. The Hydra is it's a laser optic mount, originally designed by a buddy of ours. And while we did like the elevated position of the equipment for nod shooting and kind of freeing up rail real estate, we ultimately decided to ditch it. We didn't ditch it because a buddy asked us to either. It's got nothing to do with somebody else's gripes or internet politics. We canned it because we wanted to use the Axon switch by Unity. It may sound like simple, but that's the reason. You might wonder, what's so great about the Axon switch that'll make you ditch the latest fad in the tactical world? Well, let me tell you. First, it's short. It's 2.7 inches from front to back. Right there. So the real estate issue goes away. It's also hard to mistake one button for the other because there's a ramp on one end of it, and it's got a smooth rubber bubble type switch here that is really difficult to mistake for this flat switch down here. And the flat switch has actually got a textured pattern to it. And so even if you're wearing heavy gloves or your fingers are cold and wet and frozen solid, when you can't feel texture, this upright button right here is your solid confirmation that your what switch you're going to be on. Axon also has a momentary and a constant on function it's built into it for both the light and the laser. So you come up and you grab and you give a single press and you're going to get momentary with your laser. You give a double press and you're going to turn that thing on constantly. With this one, this is for your light rather. And this one is designed so that you pop it once, light comes on, pop it and hold it, click it like just a normal Surefire tail cap, and that light is constantly on. So it's got some good functions built into it that way. It's intuitive. It mounts to the Picatinny standard, and there is an M-lock option if you wanted for whatever reason to mount this thing on the side, but everybody runs this thing at the 12 o'clock rail position for the most part, for good reason, because this way you can access it with this hand, you can come from the other side and access it with the right or left hand, doesn't matter. The model you're looking at here is their standard NATO version. It's got a Surefire style plug. We've got it plugged into a mod light here because we think mod light rules. And then your right side on this model is a NATO crane plug that hooks into the laser there. It's got 7-inch cables. If you can imagine taking this and wanting to run this switch, but having this thing mounted way back up there with the EOTech or Aimpoint or whatever, you're not going to be able to get this device far enough forward and have the cables reach that far in order to operate this thing that will operate that and that. So that's why we ditched it. But let's keep going. I'm going to tell you about why we like this thing so much. The buttons control one thing. You got one for the laser and you got one for the light. This is the standard model that we've got here. The sync has the flat, again, firing the laser, but the ramp is going to fire both the laser and light at the same time. There's also an in-gall version and one for the D-ball. The benefits to the switch are that you can now run either hand on the weapon, work the light and the laser, and you don't have the concern of having a negligent discharge because you screwed up which switch you were pressing. And because once you set up your grip, once you get your grip stop in place and you put that thing where you want it, and you've taken the time to make sure your hand is in the right position once you lock into this, your hand's going to be in the same position each time you grab your gun, meaning your overlapping thumb will always land on the flat laser switch if you set things up right. It doesn't matter if you're switching hands, if you're going left hand, right hand, makes no difference. That hand is still going to always land. That thumb is always going to land right there. Again, if you take the time to set all this stuff up correctly. I've always, had it to where we've got the light on one side and we got the actual manual fire on top, and we've skipped these things. But until this thing came out, that's how we would do it. No switches, no cables, nothing. It was just run this and press that. But the problem was On this, you couldn't hit it if you had your hand, if you were in the situation where you were switching hands. This solves that problem, and it eliminates the real estate rail issue, and it eliminates negligent discharge because there's a ramp, there's a flat. You can feel it, it's easy, and it's a pretty good piece of gear. We love it. We just wanted to show it to you. Thanks, guys.